like 283 subs. Let's get that to 500 real quick today. But yeah, so let's take a look at gold here. So starting off with the monthly, you have about 4 days left in this month, right? So obviously looking at price, this is like your resistance here, this is your support here, right? So this is the range that you're like kind of in right now. So if this is the range you're in, there's also a minor range within the range as well. So there's a range within the range within the range, basically, right? Because now there's this resistance here as well, and there's also this support right around here. So you have this here, and then you have this here, right? This is the range you're in. So it looks like you're just balancing the range, and it looks like there's a high chance the monthly candle will likely stay within this range here. I don't think we'll be breaking out. You had FOMC, and if anything, I thought FOMC would break us out, but you didn't even break out for FOMC. So I'm assuming that you'll stay in this range this month as well, meaning that like you won't close above or below, which is still tradable, right? Like this range on the monthly, it's in a range, yeah, but it's a 700 pip range. It's definitely tradable, right? It's not like it's not moving at all, right? It's definitely tradable. So it's relevant to when it comes down to catching our 10 pips, whatever, right? Because we're obviously gonna move 10 pips within that range on a daily basis. If anything, 100 pips on a daily basis. But the weekly here, looking at the weekly, we are currently right now, we closed doji last week. So you can look at this from two perspectives, right? So the first perspective is that, okay, well, you close doji, which you can also say close bullish at support. You can say, okay, well, there's this support right here, overall resistance, overall resistance, overall support. This is the range you're in, right? But if you zoom in closely, you can also notice that there's also a minor support here as well. So if this is your minor support, right, this is what happened. This candle here closed bullish, right? Or at one point broke below the range, right? And then closed back into the range. This candle closed above the range, which indicates that we should continue to drive up after forming a bottom wick. You didn't get a bottom with the next candle, but you closed bearish, respect, and support. Cool. Next candle, what did it do? Close bullish, respect, and support again. This candle, what did it do? Close doji, respect, and support. So if anything this week, I would assume that the weekly will likely continue to drive up here towards the top of the range, right? Because look left here. If this is your let's say like this is your next like minor resistance here, right? There's a very high chance that price likely will continue to drive up and fill its wick and make its way up towards like 1980, 1960, right? With the way things are forming and things are printing, right? So I'm assuming that if you're respecting the support level, just like you did here, you continue to drive up to mirror that traffic to the left. Even if you don't continue to drive up to fill the range, you'll at least drive up towards here, because that's where price tapped into last time, which is 1960. Very doable this week, right? As for a bottom wick, I'm not too sure how steep of a bottom wick you'll get, because the last 2 weeks have basically spent the whole entire week's creating bottom wicks. So I assume that this week you should just continue to drive up after a minor wick. So it could be this wick. But yeah, that's the weekly, right? So that's just like why I see in the weekly. Overall, yes, we are bullish. The second perspective I had was kind of like, okay, well, this is your range here, this is your support, right? So if this is your range you're in, there's a high chance that if price is closing bullish or support, it should make its way up, right? If anything, if you were to continue driving down to grab liquidity to drive down, you'll see this form, right? You'll see like price come up, fill the range first, and then make its way down, right? But it wouldn't just make its way down from here. It needs to grab liquidity first, and even if it does, you see the next candle come up, create a top wick before driving down anyways, right? But this is a level where price likely will tap into before it decides on where it wants to go next, aka your decision level, right? So this is basically your decision level that price has a very high chance to tap before it decides on where it wants to go next, either bullish or bearish, right? But 1960, highly achievable throughout the next coming weeks, or maybe even this week, right? Preferably this week. Now the thing is, like the weekly, right? You have 5 daily candles in the weekly, so the earlier you form a bottom wick on a daily, the better it is. Because if you guys take a look here, the daily on Friday closed bullish, right? But you can say it closed bullish here. I guess like I was gonna say maybe respecting the support, but it's also a resistance here, so I don't know about that. But you closed bullish here overall. Let's just put this here for now, right? Just to show you guys where support is. And this is your range. If this is your support, right, there's a very high chance that you'll continue to drive up to retest the highs. But the problem is you have no bottom wick. So if you can grab a bottom wick first today, right, looking left, last time you grabbed a bottom wick, you kind of tapped your way into these ranges to the left hand side here. right? You're gonna see this being grabbed. That's the level that I want price to grab for making its way up. This as well, right? So like you're looking to mirror those ranges to the left. If you're closing bullish here, I would assume that, okay, well, nice. If you can just create a bottom wick, then flip bullish, then you can probably make your way up to fill the top of the range, which is 1940 today, right? But you need to form a bottom wick first, and then you need to flip bullish before really making its way up towards the top of the range. So I was gonna say the weekly, right? Going back to the weekly real quick, like I just broke down. The weekly needs a bottom wick, right? So if you can just form a bottom wick on a daily at 1919, we're not even that far off. 1919 is right there. If we can just tap that level, then that should be the weekly bottom wick for us to continue driving up if the daily were to flip bullish today. Now, I was looking at the smaller time from earlier as well. Two things are gonna happen here today. If you possibly could, let's say you don't form a bottom wick today, right? And the daily has no bottom wick, and the first thing price does sit is just makes its way up. It doesn't form a bottom wick. If that were to happen, I'd assume you'll be able to come up and tap into 1940, 1935, if that's how it looks. And then 1940, 1945, there's potential for sales coming down from 1940 to 1935, no bottom wick, right? There's a high chance you can take sales from there, taking it down towards the bottom wick area, which is 1916, 1915, right? So I'll show you guys why in a second. I think it has to do with the 4 hour time from here real quick. So yeah, 4 hour here, right? If you guys take a look at price, obviously we're printing bearish, right? You can see this move that printed on FOMC. You've been coming down ever since, cool, right? But take a close look, you're gonna notice that, well, there's a resistance over here to the left, right? 1930, 1940-ish, or 1930, 28, 1930, right? So there's a resistance there. Let's say there's a support right here as well. If this is the range you're in, I would assume that if you were to drive down, right, you'd be mirroring these pushes to the left here. You'd be mirroring this push down. You'd be mirroring the same push down here. So if you were to drive down, I would assume that right now you're on the second wave of the push down, which is going to be this push right here, right? Which is same thing as this. That's the exact push you're looking for. So if we can come up, tap 1930, 1932, which in this kind of range here, right, in this kind of orange range here, then that's perfect. We can look for potential sells coming down to retest the lows. If this can happen within this 4 hour candle, that I can just anticipate sells from 28.30 instead to take price down towards the bottom of the range at 1910 today, right? And then that should just form the bottom wick on a daily for you. 1910, 1914, 1916, just to retest these lows basically. So if you could continue to push here on this 4 hour candle with no bottom wick and just tap into 1930, I'll look for sells off rip to come back down to retest the lows. Because even if price were to reverse and drive up, right, you're gonna need liquidity. Like, it's very rare where you see prices continue to dip off like this with no bottom wick, right? Very, like, you hardly ever even see this happen. But even if it were to happen, you're gonna need to see this, right? You're gonna need to see some bottom wick here, breaking the lows, tap into 1910, 1912. It's gotta grab liquidity, right? So like you'll see these candles form first, but it's very rare where you just see price continue to dip off from here towards like 1946 to retest FOMC's highs, right? Very rare. You need to grab liquidity first before doing so. So I would assume that'll be like 1916, 1914, going back to the daily, right? So we can take sells coming down. That'd be great. This range going down is pretty decent. It's like a nice 120 pip range, right? So it's not bad at all. But yeah, that's the 4 hour on gold. So now that we have our levels, right, we have our potential levels for buys, which is going to be 1916, 1914. We also have our potential levels for sells, which is like 1930, 1932. How could we look for the exact price points on where we're going to enter at? So we have those numbers in mind. I usually drop down to the 15, 30, and the 1, maybe the 5, sometimes 2 to check out my levels. In this case today, I think I might use the 1 hour, honestly, to mark my levels up. So I'll say this is your, let me put this here as my resistance on price, right around here at 1930. Yeah, 1930 seems about right. Let's go over here. Just mark up my major levels, right? No entries, just major levels, just to pinpoint the levels we may bounce off of and such, right? And then your support is gonna be, I'll say down here should be pretty good, 1907, or Here, here's good. 1909. Just as a major level, nothing crazy. Okay, so you have that there, that's cool. So this is the range we're in. So if I'm looking for sales coming down, I want it at top wick, right? Looking left, it's gonna be, let's see, likely gonna be somewhere around here. Yeah, right there should be good. Yeah, 1931. If I'm looking for sales today, I'll look for sales on 1931. Potential sales here. Wait for my call. Nice. And then buys, what was it at? Yeah, 19. If you were to come down, see on the daily, you'll come down towards 1914, 1909. You got a couple levels here. We'll watch price as it goes down, because as it goes down, you get to see structure. You get to see rejections. You get to see like you know, the more accounts that print, the more data you have, right? So as you start to come down, we'll judge it based off of that. So we could start marking up multiple levels here. We could start marking up a level at like 1909 levels, but then also a level at like 1913, 1914 levels in case you were to reject there instead, right? So I'll go ahead and put my first level here at the what do you call it? Oh yeah, right here. I'll say, you know what? I guess we'll just figure out the levels later on, because we're kind of far from price right now, and it's gonna change likely. So I'm just gonna not put anything just yet. I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. Just sales right now. I'm looking for 31. And then later on, as it comes down towards like 13, or if it were to come down towards 13 or 09, we'll mark up our levels. But right now, it's kind of irrelevant to price. You know what I mean? But yeah, that is what I'm looking for, chat, right now. Now, this is like more like the gamer that I printed up, the game that I printed up just now on the 1 hour and such. Like that's more of like I say like a higher time for move. It has a lot to do with the 4 hour and daily. But you can also play the smaller time for range, which isn't bad. We might just do that. We might just end up doing that during the stream sometime. Today, let's say we were to drop down to the 5. We can just take advantage of the 5-minute time frame, you know, and the 15-minute time frame instead. Like you can play multiple games today, but you have to understand what game you're playing, right? But yeah, it's definitely possible to do so. I'll say I'll adjust to that maybe a little later. If nothing happens by 9 a.m. then we'll adjust to that time frame, which is definitely doable. But I believe we still got room here. We still got time to move and tap into the levels we wanted here at 1931 and such. We're not that far off really. And you have the NYC open here very soon, and you just had the comics open just now. So, but yeah, man, that's what I got going on today, chat. So I guess we're just gonna wait. Really, can't really do much in this case. Gotta wait for price to move, and we'll look for some potential opportunities. All right. I don't know if this 4 hour candle has enough room to drive, or enough time, because you have like 4 minutes left. Unless comics does something spectacular here and continues to drive price, but I don't think we'll move just yet. Maybe if you close below these ranges here, and then you grab a top wick within this range, you could look for sales at 26 down 23. That's like one of the smaller time for moving private play today. But I'll wait until price closes below here first to see how things look. But it's not looking too bad in the 5 there. We can play that game as well. Not too bad. Because we're just in a range, right? Like overall we're in this range, but we're also in this range as well. And this range is like pretty decent. It gives you like a nice 30-bit range, 50-bit range.